Hi there. In this video, we'll be learning about the parts of an ellipse. To start, recall that we learned previously that the graph of an ellipse is given by this one out here. Moreover, we learned one of its parts, the foci. Now, let's try to explore more about this conic section. To start, take note that we have two types of an ellipse. It can either be oriented horizontally or vertically. So when it is oriented horizontally, its width is wider compared to its height. On the other hand, if it is oriented vertically, the height is taller, or it's wider compared to its width. So that's the basic idea on the difference between an horizontal and vertical ellipse. Now again, going on to the parts. First, we know the foci. Again, foci is just the plural of focus, so it's like two focus. And in a horizontal ellipse, it is placed here. For a vertical ellipse, it is placed here. So essentially, foci are two fixed points that is used in defining what an ellipse is. So take note out here that the foci is placed along or parallel the x-axis, the horizontal x-axis, and this one, it is parallel along the vertical y-axis. Aside from this, if we try to create a line segment connecting the foci and get its midpoint, this midpoint out here would represent the center of an ellipse, which we denote by call this letter O. So again, the center of an ellipse is the midpoint of the line segment connecting the foci. After this, if we create a line segment connecting these three, which ends out here at the ellipse, then this part out here is what we call the major axis of an ellipse. Its length is represented by 2a. So take note of that one, as this will be important in the equation of an ellipse. So now, take note that the endpoints of this major axis is what we call the vertices of an ellipse. So plural of vertex, since we have two. We denote this as V1, V2, V1, V2. So again, vertices are just the endpoints of the major axis. Next, if we try to draw a line perpendicular to the major axis, so this line that passes through the center, then this out here is what we call the minor axis. Its length is represented by 2b. So again, take note of this one as well, as this one will be important in the equation of an ellipse. Similarly, if we take note of the endpoints of the minor axis, this on the other hand is called the co-vertices of an ellipse, which is represented by CV1 and CV2. And so these are the basic parts of an ellipse. If we want to be more specific, take note that this part out here, this and this, the half of the major axis, we actually also have a term for that. This is called the semi-major axis, and its length is represented by half of 2a, so we have a. Aside from this, if we consider half of the minor axis, this now is called the, similarly, just the semi-minor axis, and its length is represented by half of 2b, which is b. And so take note of these two, since oftentimes in dealing with an ellipse, we only consider half of 2a, which is a, and half of 2b, which is b, in the equations, in the solutions, and such. So to recap, in this video, we learned the parts of an ellipse, starting with the foci, the center, the major axis, the vertices, the minor axis, and the co-vertices. Moreover, we also learned about the semi-major axis and the semi-minor axis. And so these are the basic parts and terms that we need to know when dealing with an ellipse. To end this, as a preview to the next video, a nice question to ask is how to determine this length out here, this distance out here, from center to focus 1, focus 2, as well as the distance or the length of this whole part out here. So we'll learn about that in the next video, as that one would be useful when we determine the parts of an ellipse soon from its equation. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed and learned a lot from this one. Feel free to comment down below if you have any suggestions, recommendations, or any other comments for this video, this playlist, and this channel in general. So yeah, that's it, and that's all for this video.